2. Okay. Oh, hey, we're live. Okay. What's up, everybody? What's up, guys? Good to see you. This is the another review show of a module from the course called Navigating Beliefs, and this is a discussion about the second module of the course, probably one of the more controversial ones. I expect this one to be probably the most controversial module of the course, which is called Why Use Street Epistemology. And we make a distinction between some of the things that you should be using SE for and some of the things that you could be using SE for. And I'm joined by many of the people behind the creation of that module. What's up, fellas? Good to see you.
Hello.
Good to be back.
Yeah.
Everybody be here. What's up?
Yeah. How was your Thanksgiving? Well, that doesn't apply to Michael or Robert for that matter.
Right.
Yeah.
I spent
I had a
nearly
good
an
time.
hour on the elliptical yesterday just trying to burn half of it off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I ate so terribly. I was drinking sodas and eating candy, and I had 2 huge plates of food. And
Nice.
and the elderly person at the table called me out on it too, like, boy, you're really eating a lot. So I was like, all right, anyways.
You mind your own business. That's what I would say.
I felt what do you mean by a lot exactly? Oh, man, it could have been fun to SE that.
That's the day to eat a lot.
I thought so too, but had a real good time. And yeah, so we're here to talk about the second module of this course, which is all about the goals of SE. Generally, the goals that you have during the conversation, not the broader goals that you might have, although we do touch on that in the course. But did anyone have anything you wanted to add about module 2? Robert, you're the project manager behind this thing. You saw that this whole thing come together.
Yes. In terms of the overall course arc, I think that the module 2 is well placed because typically, beyond asking what when a third person looks at an SE conversation, they say, "What are you doing?" And then the second question is, "Why are you doing it? Like, why are you asking these questions? What are you up to?" And that's why this is module 2. This is answers the question, what should you be doing? What should you be up to? And what could you be up to when you have an SE conversation? And so I think it's the second most popular question that people ask when they learn SE and when they see an SE conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you hoping to achieve? I get that from so many of the talks that I've given on SE. I've often given talks explaining what it is and how you do it. And then it's usually during the Q&A, like, well, why are you doing that? And it's happened so much that now I just incorporate that into my talks. I try to hit it. You know, what am I hoping to achieve by it?
And it's not always a straightforward answer to that question, as we'll find out, because the 6 of us probably, when we do SE, we probably do it for somewhat different reasons. Why we do it. It's probably not completely the same.
Yeah, in fact, I was thinking it might be fun just to go around and ask why you do SE. I can share my reason because I don't want to put you on the spot, right? You know, in the moment. But I found debate and arguing doesn't work. You know, I feel crappy afterwards, and I feel good after doing an SE talk. I feel like I understand my conversation partner. They understand me. I don't feel ashamed from having the conversation if I do an SE talk. You know, I feel good about it, and they usually feel good about it too. And you know, once you do that enough and you see the benefit of using an SE approach in a conversation, I don't want to ever go back to debating. I just don't see the utility of it. So that's a big part of it. Just generally, just how I feel before, during, and afterwards is a big part of it for me.
Yeah, I think we live in a divisive. Oh, go ahead.
Who's next, Nathan? Should we just go in sequence here? Left to right, top to bottom?
Sure.
Nathan.
Hopefully it's all the same.
Sure. Well, like, I want to know things that are, I don't want to be believing in anything that's not true. And I want to be believing in things that are true most of the time. I mean, there's some exceptions to that. Like, I guess, like there's useless truths, like trivia facts and things like that. though there's so much conflict in America, in this country, and I want to do something about that. This just seems like probably one of the most interesting things. And I come from a political science background, and as I was studying political science, and psychology at the same time, like, because I wasn't sure which major I wanted. I recognized that there were ways to study how, like, what ideologies people believe in. There were predictable factors that would lead to people to be believing in certain kinds of ideologies, which I found absolutely fascinating. And then when I got deeper into political science, I saw a lot of activists in various clubs and groups when I was a college student, and I saw that they were going about their activism all wrong. From my point of view, they were getting really confrontational, getting in people's faces, and they were making scenes on college campuses. And I just thought that there had to be a better way. That plus, growing up as a kid, like watching movies, lots and lots of movies, because I was broke, especially in college. I had like one of those Blockbuster memberships. So I saw like everything. There's so many times in movies where the main character, if only they just were more clear with their communication, could have cleared up a huge plot device in the whole movie. Like the movie showed some part of the story. There was a problem in the story, and it's generally because the main character didn't explain well enough or ask the right kinds of questions, and that always irked me so much. And so I've always been just drawn to better communication, clearer communication, opening up dialogue between people who are thinking very differently about things to resolve their disputes. And so I just found it super interesting, super fascinating, and I want to help other people who want to be activists themselves. And so when I started the channel, I wanted my own channel. I wanted to see if maybe there was something I was doing that was wrong. And one way to study that is to record yourself and play it back. And I discovered a whole bunch of stuff that I wasn't doing correctly. And the street epistemology community is a bunch of people who are concerned about how we're talking to each other, how we're investigating what we believe. And I just thought it was like the coolest thing to be into, which is just what everyone is into. What are you into? And when there's something like, it's so weird to go to a park and sit down with a sign that says, "What do you believe and why?" It's like the weirdest thing ever to do. Like, especially if you're by yourself. But when you are done at the end of the day, like, I have this just sense of meaning and purpose, I guess, like welled up. Like, I just feel so good after doing it. And it does tend to sometimes give me anxiety because I recognize just how many beliefs people have out there to help them get through the day that aren't really founded on any kind of evidence for that very well might not be true, just to help them get through hard times or difficult situations. And I want to know if there's a better way to do that than deluding oneself. And I'm not saying that everyone out there is deluding themselves, but most people have something. I'm sure I have something. And if I'm harboring something, then I want to know. So that's kind of why I do it in a nutshell.
That was great.
That is great. I can relate to so much of what you said there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. A lot of that resonates for me. So sort of the same reasons. I think the primary one for me is to minimize my own errors. So it's a bit like casting a net out there and just trying to be as open-minded as I can and to see where I'm wrong about things. get outside perspective. So that would be the main one. Second one would be, I guess it's really helpful just to managing conflicts in addition to NVC, nonviolent communication. So I've picked up some really good communication skills just through practicing SE on Discord server and elsewhere. So that's been really helpful just in everyday conflict and on that part of it. And then the third one, which Nathan touched on, being of service to other people. So I also see like being overconfident is a real problem in the world. And if being overconfident has the potential to cause harm to yourself or to other people, is it a good thing to ask questions that you might not have thought of yourself to help you to reflect on whether you're being overconfident? And so I see that if that's what people desire, then I see that as being of service to people. It's helping them in that way, just to be a check on whether they're overconfident and they can decide for themselves. So very similar to Nathan. That's why I do it.
Well, you guys have really explained the why, probably of why I do it. I think even more important for me, rather than why, is the result. And I think in me personally, I think it's made me a better person. In that it used to be, if I was maybe at Thanksgiving or something, and someone said some crazy claim, maybe my first reaction would be to get upset or feel tense or feel anxious about it, or avoid a person, because of it, or who knows. And now when I hear claims, when I hear it, I don't take it personally. It's just another claim to be investigated. And I can just divorce myself from that claim and really think about how that claim came to be. And when I think about it that way and interact with people in that way, it just makes me I think it just makes me a better person. I'm not going to take your claims personally, and hopefully you don't take my claims personally, and maybe we can just talk about this together and figure out how we know what we know, and maybe if we all interacted in this way, we would be able to turn down the temperature a little bit.
Nice.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's very well said. Yeah. So from my perspective, in terms of SE, I've done SE with family and friends, also with coworkers, and typically when you're facing somebody who has a very different set of beliefs and where they're coming from, before SE, I had two options. One is debate them, and the other is shut up. And so, and just let them be. And so there's got to be another way, right? And for people who are out there who want to change minds, there is a way which can create fertile ground for that to occur. And so, from my perspective, one of the things I've learned from SE is better critical thinking skills, and as a kind of a personal goal. But in terms of the other person, getting to a point where there is a common ground and a kind of an open channel of communication, that bridge can be effectively crossed. And I've seen it happen. I have some friends who are deep into some heavy duty conspiracy theories and feel that they are really smart cookies. They've done their research, and they feel that they are evidence based. And so, I mean, there are ways to respond to that, and SE has helped me do that.
Well said.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should start with what my goals were when I first started and how they've changed over time. I guess
I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, that could be interesting too.
yeah, like the first book, A Manual for Creating Atheists, I think a part of me is definitely wanting to create more atheists or just help people think more critically about at least religion. That was a big part of it at first, to be able to remove faith as an epistemology, to delegitimize that in the culture as a way of justifying beliefs. Faith, I was very inspired from Sam Harris's The End of Faith, in the New Atheism movement. This was like an interesting way to promote that idea that we should not respect faith as an epistemology or as like anything of virtue in culture and society. And that's how I got into it. But over time, after pretty much, I think, succeeding in some way in showing faith to be not a good way to think about how we come to knowledge. Like, I remember back in the day, like, apologists would criticize SE and write articles and all that.
Yeah.
I think over time, I think we've pretty much succeeded in that goal, in delegitimizing faith. So then we kind of moved on, at least I did, to more interesting topics, stuff I've found come up around 2016, 2017, moving into social issues that I saw split the atheism community. And I want to know why that happened. And then I tried to talk about those issues surrounding that whole kerfuffle. And over time, getting into the deep philosophical and epistemological roots of even what we were doing in terms of the Enlightenment values, liberalism, and then seeing in a broad way not just the enemies from the right or the religious, but enemies from the left and that side. So now it's all the same problem. It's the problem of epistemology. Different people have bad ways of reasoning, and I want to help one, but right now, expose those reasons and ideologies, make them clear, to get people to understand who are the enemies of the Enlightenment and why do they believe it, so that we can address those issues. Because I think the Enlightenment is, and all the values in it are really great values and ideas that need to be kept in culture and society so that we can correct our errors and make progress intellectually and morally and keep our societies dynamic and not static so that we can live better lives and flourish individually and collectively. I think those are my main goals now. Yeah. And just having fun, talking with people, exploring ideas whenever that stuff doesn't really come up.
That's interesting. That shift from the atheism origins of SE to the broadening out of the approach, like, I think it's been one of the best things that happened to SE, that it wasn't constrained and that people quickly saw the utility of it to use it beyond just the religious claims. It's been neat to see that happen. It would be sad if SE just always stayed within sort of atheist circles. I've been grateful that it's expanded beyond. I've often said, like, I think SE is a great tool to learn regardless of where you stand on any claim. So if you are in one of those far right or far left camps or somewhere in the middle, I think SE is the tool that you would want to use when you encounter somebody that you disagree with, regardless of where you stand on those claims. So the versatility of SE is something that I'm particularly grateful for.
If you happen to be an atheist, using SE to investigate the claim of if you happen to be a theist, using SE to investigate the claim of a theist is a really powerful way to do it.
Or even if you're like really dogmatic on the left or really dogmatic on the right, learn the tool. That is a tool that I would want somebody to use on my claims, and I think sometimes people get worried when they see somebody that they disagree with vehemently on a topic use SE and think, oh, it's been corrupted. They're now using SE in a bad way or something like that. I think, like, technically, if you're doing SE, it doesn't matter where you stand on the claim. You should be allowed to do SE and proceed to challenge somebody that you disagree with, even if you think that their views are just horrible.
And that's my hopes with AI. Like when AI, the chatbots can do SE, you can see that, well, the AI doesn't care about which claim you're using. It's just going to ask you questions. And then we could divorce people from it and just have this really super intelligent conversation with a chatbot. And then you can see how, well, it doesn't really matter if a person's asking these questions or a computer's asking these questions. It's the process of these questions, investigating how you know what you know.
One of the biggest barriers I found is the psychosocial motivation, especially groupthink and being stuck in your tribe. And I'm wondering, maybe we need like Elon's Neuralink to be able to help us to overcome that. Maybe that'll be the future. We'll see.
I'm not ready to have my brain drilled on quite yet. But.
Yes.
Got a comment from Shuksan. Hello all. I've been following this movement for about 5 years. Haven't been actively filming or setting up tables, but I have been attempting to use SE with family and friends whenever possible. And that's great.
It's exactly
That's really great.
Yeah, I think that's when that's actually family and friends is typically the most common use of SE. What people see in terms of the recordings, it's really the tip of the iceberg. So whoever's doing SE with family and friends, you are in the core of what most people do in terms of SE.
And what I'd like to say is that when I do SE, I'm usually doing it in public with people I don't know, and with I really fully realize that most people are using it with their friends and family, and that's more challenging in the kind of SE than I typically do, because when you have a relationship with somebody, it can make things a lot more complicated, and fully recognize that. And so,
typically with family and friends, you have certain tell, right? There's certain behaviors, certain ways you speak, certain ways you behave that the other person knows very well. And so if they already know your position on whatever it is you're talking about, and so that's one of the difficulties in terms of if you're meeting somebody in a park off the street, you start from the zero line of there's it's a blank page, and there's a certain minimum level of cordiality you start with, etc. But if there's baggage there and a history, and then it's a much more complicated, much more nuanced discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I find doing SE with strangers is so much easier than doing it with somebody that you know. If going out on the street and recording SE conversations is your thing, there is a regular gathering that we have. Just email creators@streetepistemologyinternational.org, and we'll get you hooked up where you can meet with other content creators and share ideas and that type of thing. Have you ever gotten any pushback though? Because I've received a little bit of feedback from people saying SE was better when it was just about atheists exploring theistic claims, and I really wish that you would go back to that. Have any of you encountered anything like that? Because I've heard a little bit. It's surprising to me, because it's like, why would you want to just hold this tool back for just that one little small demographic?
I would just tell them to go out and do that if that's what they want to do. I mean, from my perspective, it's about them. It's about what they believe. So when I go to a park, I'm trying less and less to impose what I want to talk about, especially if I'm like doing it in a public park. I want to ask open-ended questions like, what problems do you think are facing our country or our society today? What's some of the biggest problems? And what do we do about that? And then I want to talk to them about that. Or what is a value that you hold that you think a lot of people around you don't hold? What
maybe-
is something that's important, something like that, and then that gets a ball rolling in their court.
Mhm.
So that's
I'm
where
thinking that
Go
maybe
ahead.
that kind of feedback was coming from people who are really concerned about religion, and they
Yeah.
didn't like the sort of the shift in direction of SE. But it's a minority view, but I've heard it a little bit from some surprising people too. Like you would think that they would see the
My
bigger
problem
picture.
is I'm in Portland, so there's not a lot of like religious street preachers or whatever.
Right.
And
And
that's
these
where
people
I would
maybe maybe they're more ensconced in a religious type of climate where it's a bigger issue for them. Yeah.
Although the very first time I ever did SE in the Park, Reed showed up to Portland, actually. And I still have it in the queue.
Oh
I'll
yeah,
post it at some point.
that was
But
your first time in a park.
that was my first time in a public park, because every other time I've done
Festival.
SE, it was at festivals. Because I think festivals are a great place to do SE because people are camping and they're opening themselves up to new experiences. And they want to try new things. And if you have a workshop, people are like stoked to like come and do a free thing.
Workshop.
Yeah. So I just like, come and do my like critical thinking workshop, and we'll explore your ideas. And people like sit down and they'll commit a lot more time to it. So that's why I love doing it at festivals. Doing it in a public park is a whole different thing. And in Portland, there's like there's a lot of weirdos and like random people,
Some
passerbys
hazards.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I got interrupted in my video too. So you'll see that at some point. But yeah, my very first talk ever in a public park was just somebody who was just like telling me about how like the pages of her book was like transforming into gold, and like she was talking to her therapist about it, but her therapist didn't believe her until the pages turned to gold in front of her therapist. I was like, whoa. So
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
stay tuned. It's I'm posting it at some point. But that was my very first talk, and it was like a deeply religious one. So I mean, it's still out there even in a place like Portland. So but yeah, I certainly don't like seek it out. Now I have approached a street preacher once doing he was broadcasting on a radio show, I guess, outside of the Memorial Coliseum here in Portland. And I was just driving by, and I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna pull over and talk with him really quick. So I like parked my car,
Yeah.
got out, and was just like, hey, like everyone was shouting him down, first of all, because this is Portland, so there's not a lot of people who are going to be like really supportive of him. So like, but people were like name calling him, and just like, and he was getting it recorded and posted it to whatever public access radio show I guess he was probably broadcasting to. And I was like, everybody go away. And then I was like, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? And it only took like maybe 5 or 6 minutes before he got really nervous. Like he withstood the shouting and the name calling and the all of this attacks, like, and he wore that with a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Though
None of that caused reflection.
Exactly. And it's some like very respectful conversation with kindness, and just like exploring hypotheticals and things like that. He is like, I gotta go, and he like put it to commercial. So that was, I wish I had that recorded, but it was just like a spur of the moment thing. But talking to people who are activists themselves, those are great people to talk to. And if I knew more about like protests that were happening in Portland ahead of time, I would love to just show up before. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to name my channel Abstract Activist, with lots of different reasons. But one of them was I wanted to talk to activists, and go where they are. Yeah.
You actually, you remind me, Nathan, of a time where I was in downtown Toronto, and normally there are street preachers there, and I think well, when the street preachers out there yelling and screaming at the crowd, these are not conditions conducive to a heart-to-heart conversation. Yet, nonetheless, I remember that time I went to these preachers, and it was a group of Muslim preachers. And they were all talking about the Quran. And so I ended up speaking to one of them, who was one of the younger of there was about 4 or 5 there, and they were doing their thing. And I stopped to talk to one of them, and it got very personal, one-to-one, very quickly. And this person's talked about, personal experience and they're growing up in their family and why they believe what they believed. And the others stopped and looked to hear this conversation that I was having with one of them, and they left us alone. Normally, they were ready to jump in there and quote some scripture, but they left us alone, and I had this one-on-one conversation in the middle of a summer day on a busy downtown street, and it was very educational for me, because I thought that normally this kind of circumstance is not good for SE, but you can establish a rapport very quickly, even in busy circumstances. It kind of taught me that sometimes conditions that don't seem to be conducive, they are actually. It's you remind me of that the time I had that conversation.
Yeah, there was a comment above. Somebody asked us if we like to be SE'd. I can't remember where that comment is.
That would be my preference.
Yes, absolutely. And that's another motivation to do this. As a matter of fact, the thing that flipped the switch for me to want to start creating content for YouTube, because I'm not a big fan of social media. I think it gives me anxiety. And also I'm constantly terrified of something that I say being clipped and then broken down by somebody to insult me or make fun of me or whatever. I get anxiety about that. But one of the things that flipped the switch for me was how SE is, in my mind, is kind of what is the outsider test for how you would want your beliefs to be dissected by somebody. And if that person really wanted to know how you knew what you knew, but they didn't believe it, how would they go about asking you so they could know it? Or the reverse, if I'm believing in something and it's not true, how would I want to discover that it isn't?
Yeah.
And once I realized that was a way to think about it, that really encouraged me to get out there and start doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So Anthony, you can share some of the screens from module 2?
I can. Yep. I can share my screen for sure. We should probably show people what it is we're talking about with this particular module.
And then at the end of the show, we'll bring on people and they can share why they do SE. Put the link in the chat to hear.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
We'll just do
okay. That's a first. Okay. We've never done that before. Have we? I don't know. I don't watch all these. That's cool. So yeah, if you're in the audience and you want to share why you do SE, or why you use SE, or maybe why you don't, wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, why you don't?
That could be fun too. But am I sharing my screen? I think so.
And if you're in the audience, sign up for the
go.
course that we're showing you right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And module 2, when it comes to the length of the modules, this is probably one of the maybe the middle tier ones. We've broken it up into 2 different sections: goals that you should pursue when doing street epistemology, and additional goals that you could pursue. And the two should goals are to understand others and to encourage others to critically reflect. Because heck, if you don't have those 2 goals as your should goals, the additional goals here, I don't see how you could have the goal of persuading others to change their mind about something and it not be coercion if you don't have these first 2 goals of understanding other people and to help them critically reflect. And I'm suspecting that this module here, this section 2.2.1, persuading others to change their minds about something might be one of the most controversial aspects of it. And maybe it might be a bridge too far for some people. I think I've seen some SE practitioners maybe seem reluctant to push with their questioning to challenge people about their position, that it's more about understanding and reflection, and then they're comfortable with that and they don't want to go much further than that. But you actually could push, you could challenge to the point where somebody's actually reconsidering their position and maybe even changing their mind, which is what this illustration was attempting to convey here.
And the course makes a very good distinction between persuasion and coercion, which we can get.
It does. Yeah, it does. We've defined the word like when I heard so we've had hours and hours and hours of discussions about this, putting this stuff together. And I think all of us were uncomfortable with the word persuasion. And I still am, even to this day, until you recognize how we're defining it. And there are certain definitions of persuasion that I would disagree with, but the one that we think is really good and representative of what it is we're doing is this one here by Daniel O'Keefe. Persuasion is the act of changing a mind without coercion. I don't want to coerce or manipulate my conversation partner into doing something, at all. And I think that this definition is spot on for what we're doing.
Yeah, and then probably the most important question you can ask someone in an SE conversation, in my view, is just what would persuade you one way or the other, as a hypothetical, just to explore that like whole concept of doxastic openness. Like, can you imagine a scenario that would persuade you, and then explore that with them?
And this is the reason why some people are interested in street epistemology as a method of sales and marketing. That persuading somebody to change their mind about whether or not they can afford to buy that car is a context that some people want to use SE for. That they feel it is a method of sales and persuasion. I think that there's a difference between saying, is SE does SE persuade people to change their mind, and or is it for other purposes? And I think it can be used for this, but it isn't necessarily used for this. It's a Swiss Army knife, depending on what your own personal goals are. So you can use it this way, but it is not the primary reason for using SE.
And I think there's some wording in here that's something to the effect of you're working within your conversation partner's reasoning at all times, and you're trying to not influence or interject your own views. And as you're walking through how they've evaluated the quality of their reasoning, they're essentially persuading themselves. And I think that's such a big part of it. They're doing all the work. You're facilitating the environment that makes it conducive to that type of reflection. And that it's safe. It's a safe, psychologically safe environment to do so. And you give them the space in the room to do that.
Yeah, read like the first few sentences after the illustration in that paragraph after that's the main paragraph that explains the context.
It's a great one. Yeah. If you'd like to change someone's mind about something, then street epistemology can help you do so. But the means of persuasion should always be through understanding your conversation partner and helping them critically reflect on their view. This ensures that your conversation partner is mostly persuading themselves. Also, the more you are committed to pursuing those goals, the more likely you'll persuade someone in the direction of what's more reasonable, not in any direction you choose. This makes street epistemology an honest form of persuasion. And then we get into the definition of persuasion there.
Yeah, that's
go
I
ahead.
like it. Yeah, I really like that. You guys have done some great work on that. That's good.
By the way, this illustration here, I should point out, like sometimes we have a great illustrator out of England. Can you see this tab? So like we'll give them some guidance, like we need 2 people sitting at a table and doing this and that. But every once in a while, it's helpful to mimic the poses that we want. And it just so happened that during the Zoom call, Reed was actually posing for the illustrator here.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Illustrate look like this. Yes.
he was the inspiration for this particular graphic.
Yeah. And I like to
Yes.
be cozy and comfortable with my robe as we write the course.
That's
You
wonderful.
and me both, man. Robe
That's
life.
perfect.
It's such a comfy robe.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we keep it very casual when we're developing these things.
You tell the illustrator that he got the illustration really correct, except for the robes. Like, why no robes?
Yeah, why no robe?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, they're at a
It's
coffee
okay.
shop. It would be weird to have a robe
Yeah.
at a coffee shop.
Yeah. Yeah. No, on the topic of people changing their own minds, what I often say is that the most trusted voice that people listen to change their mind is themselves.
Yeah.
And so I don't tell them what they should think. They come to this conclusion themselves. A voice in their head comes up after the conversation, typically, and they think, well, maybe you're not exactly right about that. And they tell themselves this. And
We're always working within the conversation. I mean, we should ideally be working within the model of our conversation partner, even for the reasons. Like I was just watching Rationality Rules. Stephen, he was doing some
Woodward.
seemingly street epistemology on the street in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I
and he
sent
just
you that
posted a
link
video.
before this broadcast.
And I just commented on the video like, hey, this is pretty good to like SE, but maybe look into the course. But he was offering reasons to his conversation partner that I think he suspected that he would find convincing.
yeah.
And that's
did
such a
that.
great example of how your conversation partner is making these decisions. They are the ones that are surfacing their reasons for thinking that this is true. And then we're exploring with them how they concluded that
Yes.
those are good reasons. We're not interjecting our reasons unless they ask us. We can certainly give our reasons, but that's usually when rapport starts to become kind of shaky and jeopardized. And before you know it, they're trying to convince you that your reasons are poor and they're not thinking about their own reasons.
Yeah. I think that's one of the main reasons why debate does not work. Is because the person you're speaking to is not interested in what convinced you. They're only interested in what convinced them. And so it's all irrelevant what you have to say about what you think is the knockdown, drag out, whatever convincing thing that you find really compelling. It's all irrelevant. And so in debate, that's just doesn't work.
Right. And for clarification, we mean why debate doesn't work to the other person you're debating.
That's
Right.
right. Yes, on the other
Yeah.
It
person.
could work for the audience. Their
For
audience
the
members that are
right.
Yes,
they're gonna be more objectively analyzing those reasons because they're not necessarily theirs. They're entertaining them sitting in those chairs in the audience or watching the YouTube video. But yeah, when you're the claimant, you're not going to be evaluating other reasons that people are going to be throwing at you more than likely, especially if it's a very personally tied claim.
And also, just to play devil's advocate, there are some times in which debate can do something. Though I just find that the more deeply rooted a person is in their idea, the less effective, the more likely facts that you throw out counter to their facts are going to just bounce right off because they're already holding different facts, which are counter to the ones that you're trying to present in the debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you say about Nathan about people who say you're doing street epistemology, you're being manipulative because you're actually trying to persuade me. It all sounds all very neutral and you're trying to understand me in questions, but actually you have a persuasion subtext goal. What do you say to a person who says that you're being manipulative?
I love this question because the answer is to SE that by asking like, well, what do you mean? Can you explain more? Have them explain it more and then say, what's your reason for thinking that this is manipulation? What would it look like to investigate your belief and have it not be manipulation? Is there a way to do that?
But then
And
after that,
it's all the same thing. It's just more SE.
yes. But you do SE with them. But then after you do it, you ask them, and at any point, did you feel like you were being manipulated?
Right. Or
Right?
I've had a talk in which somebody at the end, this is the one read where those two guys, they were both MAGA Trump supporters and Christians, and there was a couple, they believed that the election was stolen and stuff. You helped me with this like years ago. It's one of my favorite talks I ever had because it went on for 3 hours. So if you want, check out my channel. It's on there somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Under my best talks. And at the end, they were like, yeah, this was good, but it felt kind of like you were like, Schwartz. I don't even remember what they exactly protested against. And I asked them, well, when was the moment you felt most like that during this talk? Can you give me an example in this talk that we had? What was the time you felt most cornered or pressured, or because my goal is for you to not feel that way, and if you are feeling that way, I need to like adjust somehow.
I'd push back on that very slightly though, because in any con, the most effective con is when the mark doesn't realize that they've been had. Right. In other words, asking your conversation partner, did you feel manipulated? And they go, no, I don't feel manipulated. Well, gee, does that mean you're not being manipulated?
Well, that's true. The manipulation could be so strong that you didn't realize that you were possibly manipulated. Is that the argument?
Yeah. There is like this third person perspective that can be had that would clear that up.
That's almost all the criticisms. I've never had a criticism that I was manipulating somebody when I was doing SE with that person. I don't think anyone's ever come back and said, I feel that you took advantage of me or tricked me in some way. That's never happened. It's the observers. A few, you get an observer of an interaction and they come to that conclusion that you've manipulated them. But even that's rare.
That's
when it happens, it's like, what did you see that was happening that you thought was manipulative about it? Because I don't want to be doing that. So tell me what it is. I don't usually get a very clear answer to it.
And sometimes we even have a tendency to go the other way, where might have a tendency to treat people like they might be real fragile or not resilient humans, where, if we just ask these questions, they may crumble, and we kind of, sometimes I make, if anything, sometimes I go the other way. I like thinking I'm concerned where in retrospect, after the conversation's over, those are concerns probably weren't warranted.
Good time to remind people about the FAQ page. We have a criticism section in the FAQ page, and this is one criticism that is actually there. We have a whole response to that.
This was text that we were initially thinking about sticking in module 1 of the course, and then we got feedback that module 1 was way too long, so we ended up pulling it out and then dropping it on the FAQ page of the website. A website which is in the process of being replaced, by the way, right, Robert?
Absolutely, working on that one. Yes.
Was there anyone in the audience who was interested in coming on to talk about why they do SE or maybe why they don't?
I've got to head off to jiu-jitsu, but I do have one thing to add to that. I like to ask if this conversation had a good influence on you, would you be happy with that? And so I think it comes down to whether they sense there's harm flowing from the conversation or whether they think there's a benefit for them. And that's why they would raise the objection about manipulation. So there's influence everywhere. And it's a question of, is the influence a good influence or a harmful influence? So pretty much like Nathan, I would take the direction down there and explore that with them.
So if they were struggling with the outcome, they might be more apt to call it manipulation.
If they thought that we were influencing them and that led to harm in their life, I need this belief because it does me well, or it's positive for me, then
it's impossible to have a conversation without some sort of influence. I mean, that's the nature of a conversation.
Yeah, because the driver of everything is emotion, and the elephant and the rider, all that sort of stuff. But definitely. Great to catch up with everyone. Good to see you, Mark. It's been a while, and
hey, Michael.
I'm off to get beaten up. So off to do jiu-jitsu.
Good luck.
So,
Have
all right.
fun.
Okay. Bye-bye.
See you, Michael.
So
To
we have,
his point,
Go
was
ahead.
that that's one of the reasons why whenever I'm investigating like any kind of spiritual claim, that I ask, like I call it meta consent. It's like consent to, if your mind changed on this subject matter, like would that be okay with you? Like if it were to hypothetically happen to your satisfaction, to your own standards, and you woke up tomorrow and you no longer held this belief, would that be something, and it was also aligned with something more accurate than before, would that be something that you would want for yourself? And if they say no, then I want to divert the entire conversation to why that is, because that's probably the main reason, whether or not that person knows it's their main reason for why they're confident. So
Cool. We have a guest.
yeah, a guest.
And
Yeah,
that reminds me of what we're kind of edging on the whole ethics side of SE, and that's module 3, which is another review
Yes.
that we'll probably do in about a week or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi,
How do you
Shuckson.
pronounce your name?
It's Shuckson. Can you guys hear me okay?
Jackson. Okay.
Shuckson.
Yeah, so Shuckson,
great.
it's the name of a mountain in Washington State. It's the first mountain I ever climbed. So
Huh.
yeah, anyway. Yeah, it's up near
Nice to have you
Mount
here.
Baker.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. So I've been following all of you guys for years, and especially during the pandemic, because we were all on lockdown, and you guys all make great content. But one of the things I wanted to join you all to talk about was my son. He's 12 years old. He'll be 13 in February. And I'm a single dad. I have him 11 months of the year, and 1 month of the year he goes and stays with his mom. But something I have been working on with him since he was 7 was the differences between fact and opinion, critical thinking skills, all of the basics of how to kind of navigate this crazy world that we're in. And then all of a sudden I stumbled upon one of Anthony's videos, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that. And he and I have sat down and watched tons and tons of these videos. And he has really started to become more and more inquisitive. And I've actually witnessed him with friends his age asking people why they believe what they believe. What led you to that belief or this thought and those kinds of things. And it has just been an absolutely incredible thing for me, greatly due to the fact that his biological mom lives in a totally different state, and he only visits her one month out of the year. But it's a full QAnon, fully on board with January stuff, all of that, tons of conspiracy theory things. And it has really been beneficial for him because he can come home after a month and no confrontations, no arguments, and then can talk to me about, well, I think she thinks this, or her husband thinks that, and because of this and that, and we can talk it out together. And anyway, it's made a huge difference in his life. And while you guys were chatting earlier, I was like, hey, I wrote something. I never write anything on these things. I'm a lot like abstract activist. I stay away from social media.
Nice.
I was like, oh, they read my thing. And I was like, hey, how would you feel about doing these courses when I'm done with it? And we can start a YouTube channel. And we can go set up a table like one of these guys do. And I live just across Puget Sound from Seattle in this little Scandinavian tourist town. And they do festivals all summer long here.
Nice.
And he was like, we could go set up a table down there. And he's like, I could have friends from my school come. We can talk to the teachers. He's all excited.
That's awesome.
So I was like,
amazing.
and I was like,
wow.
Liam, his name's Liam. And I was like, Liam, you would be the youngest person doing this online. I was like, look how old these guys are.
We'd love to see that content.
Yeah.
And he started laughing. And he's like, yeah, the youngest ones look like they're about 30.
Oh, we want young people to do this. This is
Yeah,
that's
we
awesome.
need to destroy that demographic, or that perception
Yeah.
that you have to be a middle-aged or older and white to do this. So yeah,
Mhm.
that'd be
And
cool.
when you're
Yeah.
younger,
Oh my
your
gosh.
mind's more open, and
So-
you're just better at it. Yeah.
And he's been wanting to do a YouTube channel for years, but you know how toxic all that stuff can be. And I was like, this would be a channel that would actually be something that would be gratifying, not to make money, but just because you'd be helping make a difference. But he's part of his Dungeons and Dragons club at school. So he's like, well, if we do the channel, maybe I can do like Saturday nights I do SC, and then on Sunday nights I give D&D tips. I was like, all right, that sounds good. Fair trade.
Are you in contact with David from Sound Epistemology? He lives near the Puget Sound.
No, I haven't been in contact with anyone. I mean, honestly, the pandemic threw my whole life into a complete like whirlwind. And so I actually moved. I was living in Bellevue, which is like a suburb of Seattle. And I moved across Puget Sound because my folks are in their 80s and they're not doing so great. So I'm kind of taking care of them and raising a kid. And I'm a single dad and working and all this. But once you guys released module 1, I was like, all right, I've been dragging my feet for too long. I should start getting active. So anyway, that's why I came on. Say thank you guys.
Thank you very
Awesome.
much for
Awesome.
that.
That's
And
great feedback.
I dropped the link
Use
to
my
David's
ears.
channel, Sound Epistemology, there in the comments. And that would be amazing to see some content from you and your son.
It would
Tell
be,
Emma right
yeah,
now.
it'd be really cool to have a kid do it, I think. I mean, it'd be
Oh,
cool to
it
see the both
would.
of us, but
Yeah.
it just, and you know, I mean, I have long hair and a beard and stuff, and you know, he's cute, and people I think will approach him a little bit more than they would me.
Yeah,
And
I
of
have
course-
a
Yeah,
Of
you
course,
got to tap.
SAI, the nonprofit, has resources to help any creator, but this in particular would be special. We would help you out for sure.
Cool. Awesome. Well, maybe I'll reach out to you guys. I mean, I want to go through all 6-year modules. I'm assuming you're going to be releasing one every couple weeks. I'm probably halfway through the first one. And, you know, other than that, I've just been listening to tips as you go. And I've seen how this has evolved over the years. I mean, like I said, I started with Anthony's videos, I don't know, 5 years ago, and now seeing all these other creators, and then Reed, I think, was the second one, and all of you guys have improved so much. And I really love abstract activist videos because I was a deadhead
Thanks,
for
man.
years and all that kind of stuff. So I get the whole, you know, like now I can, you know, I was into all the weird pseudoscience and spiritualism kind of stuff, and now, you know, I consider myself to be atheist, secular humanist. But yeah, festivals, man, that's a good way to go.
good people, right?
Yeah, you know, and people are, and
Lots
they're
of
open
interesting
to
ideas
like,
out there.
there are. So anyway, just thanks again, and I'll probably reach out to you guys at some point. But yeah, like I said, I want to go through all the modules, feel like I have my feet, and yeah, I've got a PC and all that. I'm on my phone right now. Sorry if the quality's bad.
No, that's fine. Just so you know, modules 1 through 6 are available now. We call it phase 1, and we're working on the second phase, which will be modules 7 through 14. And we're hoping to get that done and released before the end of the year. So there's a ton of content on there right now.
Next
for you and your
year.
son to go
Okay. Next
The end
year.
of
Okay.
next year.
So
Next-
I started
yeah. My mind is
I
in
started the
2024.
first round,
Yeah.
and I think I don't know. It was sometime late night last week. I started the first one. I went through, I don't know, the first couple sections that explained how to navigate it all and what it was and all that. And it was good because, like I said, I've been watching your guys' videos for years, but just even definitions, having things written down that makes it more concrete.
Right on.
So
Well, thanks.
Cool.
Thank you for coming
Anyway,
on and sharing that. That means a lot.
I'll
say hello
I'll
to your
sign off.
son.
okay,
For-
cool. Yeah, and my name's
Nice
Dave. My name's Dave, by the way. So anyway,
Okay.
Another
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave.
you might see a Dave and Liam channel
Okay,
at some
good.
point.
Let's do that.
All right. Take care, guys. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks
See
again.
ya.
Later.
Oh, nice
Yeah,
call.
people love watching SE videos with kids. So they're just so cute, especially when they're like exploring ideas. What was it? Spaghetti Eddie
Yeah,
has
yes.
probably
yeah,
the most
with his-
famous
that was the best one of the best
interaction with
videos.
kids.
Yes.
Yeah, is Nemo real?
Is Nemo
Or is
real?
Nemo,
Yeah.
or is Nemo
yeah.
not real? That's
Yeah.
so cute.
And I
Yep.
think That even got mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast when Andy Norman was on
Oh,
as a
that's
guest. He
right.
brought that up as an example. So that was some good
Yeah.
exposure.
Yeah. Now, Nathan, you're going to be
Yeah.
teaching some kids, right?
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, I should, if everything goes according to plan, in January. I still have to fill out like an application form, and they have to do a background check on me. But I'll be teaching at a public school here in Portland.
That's cool. You know, I did
Yeah.
an interview with Thibaut from Opinion Suru, the French nonprofit organization for street epistemology, and he had asked me what I thought about doing SE with kids, and my attitude on that has changed. And initially, my cutoff was like 15, 16 years old. I wouldn't SE anyone, do SE with anyone younger than that. But then I saw examples of Reed doing it, and then Mark, you have an example where you were talking to a youngster at a festival or something like that.
Mhm.
Usually the parents are off, they're there, right? It's
Yeah.
not like you're meeting these kids and doing it, but their parents are there, they're listening in presumably, and they can step in at any time. And I just got invited to teach street epistemology to a bunch of kids at what is it called? There's a philosophy group. I think I just tweeted about it this morning or put it on my Facebook page. But yeah, I'm way open to the idea now, more so than before, of kids learning it. Why not? Like, I think the earlier you are when you're exposed to it and you learn this type of thinking, the better.
Yes.
Yeah, here's Eddie from Deep Discussions doing some SE with his kids.
Yeah. We don't have to listen to the audio of it. Video.
Why not?
Because he's in the movie.
He's in a movie
And he talks.
and he talks.
Oh, dogs don't
Do
talk.
dogs talk?
Yeah, but in the middle of the movie, he does it. But when he's all by himself with his friends, he talks.
There you go. There's a taste of it. Just look up
Yeah.
street epistemology with my kids on Spaghetti Eddie Deep Discussions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got another guest though.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, good.
David. What's up?
Right.
Another David.
David Worley. What's up, David? Now, you wrote a book on logical fallacies, didn't you?
You're muted,
muted.
David.
Unmute. There we go. Hi.
What's up, David? How are you?
Oh, I need a shave and everything. Hi. It's good to see you again, Anthony and Reed. I don't think I've properly said hello to Mark, Nathan, or Robert, but hello anyway.
Hello.
I did. It's an interesting tale. Not that you have time for it, but I know that it certainly clouds my thoughts as to how to approach various different conversations. I think I come into SE at a very similar angle to Reed, in that I see the atheist community split, and that's been really contentious, and it's very difficult to have certain conversations about certain topics. I probably, please stop me at any point as well. I will just talk. I did do a podcast, so just stop me. When all of that was going down, I got some flack for asking questions, and I continued to ask questions. It didn't really deter me too much, but I saw other people being deterred from asking questions, and it got to the point, sort of years on, I haven't really talked to anybody since, and friendships have broken down. And I got invited onto a stream for Halloween by a skeptic channel. I won't say who, but they basically cancelled me from being on, because I was accused of various things back in the day, and I was like, actually, this is what my real position is. And they sort of they go back a little bit of back and forth, and yeah, basically, in short, I'm still sort of constantly thinking every day about how to have healthier conversations, and I'm just wondering what the panel thought as to what conversations are we not having that we should definitely be having, and are the most, time specific, like, what words am I looking for? The most urgent topics of conversation we need to be having right now.
Good question.
Very good
I
question.
follow Mike Nana on Twitter in his Substack. He did the Grievance Studies of Fair documentary, but now he's kind of branched out into potentially other ideologies to investigate. And his latest post is about post liberals, like people on the right who want to basically not just be mainstream conservatives who are within like the liberal tradition, but to abandon liberalism altogether and just potentially go back to some kind of theocratic type thing, or just
Even like feudalism, kind of kings and queens and peasants.
yeah, it's just
Wow.
I'm still not exactly clear on it. The ideology myself. It's just it's
Yeah.
just a deep cynicism and skepticism of liberal democracies and its methods and stuff. So that's something I want to work on talking with people about. I actually haven't made this announcement. I just confirmed it today. I'm going to be going to Los Angeles for a few weeks, but after that, I'm going to go to this America Fest. It's like a Charlie Kirk, conservative conference.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I got a booth that I'll be able to record conversations there, and I'm hoping to demonstrate better conversations around that group of people. That would be interesting to me because there's so many things I agree with them about, but like tons of things I disagree with them about. So I want to help talk with those kind of people about stuff. That'd be fun.
That
And,
would be really interesting.
I have 2 open spots. It comes with the booth pass. So Nathan, Mark, this is a formal invitation for anybody. If you want around Phoenix, Arizona, December, December 16th through the 19th, feel free to come hang out and you can record some conversations with some people if you want. I think Doug
That sounds
Pike
like fun.
drive Tucson.
Yeah, Doug's out of Tucson. I have family in Phoenix. I was just in Phoenix for Thanksgiving, so I would
Oh, really?
I would love to do some SC there. Maybe we can swap out the 3 people. Like I'm there for an hour, I leave, somebody else comes in.
I'd be
But
totally
that could
glad
be
to do that.
That could be fun. I mean, to answer your question, David, I would say like anything that you observe people acting out on that you're concerned about, then that would be something that I would be interested in. So if I see people like I remember years ago when it was like there was some concern that the IRS was specifically targeting conservative groups, and there were people protesting outside of the IRS office. And I was getting my car fixed, and I saw them out there, and it's like, oh, that if they're motivated enough to go out there and protest and message because they're so concerned about something, and it's something that I think that maybe they're overreacting to. That was something that intrigued me to want to go to do. So that's sort of my barometer. If people are acting out on it, and I think it might be mistaken or misplaced or harmful, then that's usually a motivation for me to generate my interest to want to talk with people about it. Or in this case, fly to Phoenix to talk to people. That's a good example of, yeah.
Interesting.
I'd say up here in Canada, we have kind of front row seat and watching the fireworks that's going on in the United States, and a lot of it spilled over into Canada, and so we up here in Ottawa experienced the trucker convoy protest, which paralyzed the Canadian government for several weeks, and it was an interesting kind of red flag that went up that showed the degree to which there is deep polarization occurring in the political field, and there are very different views in terms of how what the solutions are and what the problems are, and this inability to reach out across to discuss things with the other side, whoever the big them are, right? Is it's incredible the degree to which the two sides are really like hermetically sealed from each other. They don't really interact and have any sense of what the them guys are doing. So yeah, that's very important to be able to reach out and speak to the other side. If I try to engage with somebody with whom I disagree, third party will say, "What's Robert doing speaking to those guys? He must be one of them." It's the craziest thing. So yeah, this is one of the problems that I think SE can address.
Right now.
Just making notes on that. Yeah.
Cool. I hope to see you in London again, David. Going to be back in January, mid-January, for a bit.
Okay.
So hope to hang out.
Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, just to explain to everybody else, I'll sort of past do intertwine slightly a little bit. So I have had quite a lot of degree stuff to do in Wales in January, and then I'll be back out in the States, probably LA, for the next roughly 3 years. I mean, we're coming back for Christmas, but I'll be in LA for 3 years. So I don't know whether you're planning on like moving to London or what's going on here, but you look like you're having fun anyway.
Yeah, I'm traveling a lot. I actually moved out of Los Angeles to Florida, but my place is under construction, so I'm really just traveling. So I'll just see you around, hopefully, when I get back to LA at some point.
Sweet. One thing I really wanted to get to is because of the nature of my story, so American. The way in which I got into the sort of atheist community stuff and do the podcast that led to the fallacy books, led to sort of cancelling and to all of SE and whatever, is that initial spark that started it was me going out to America in the first place. And that was like 2017, 2018. And I stayed with lots of different host families every week. So the idea is you do camp, like football camp, Monday to Friday, and then you travel on the weekend to a new location. And just the first two host families I had, the first one was pro-lifers, 7 kids in Southern Oregon. And then the next week I went up to Portland and stayed with a couple of actors. Now, it doesn't really take a genius to work out that the first family were very conservative and the second family was ultra liberal, and they were two completely different groups of people, and that's sort of behave in different ways. So I wanted to ask another question, which is, what questions do you think I should ask those host families over the next 3 years?
Oh, so you're going to have an extended relationship with them. It's not just sort of a one and done type of thing. You'll have continuous conversations with them.
Some will, yeah. So some will be sort of dropped if there's some are very distant, and some are very sort of, how was your day today? And we have dinner around the table every night, and that's preferred because that's great. But yeah, some would be maybe for a week, some might be for a few days, and some might be for a whole month. And I'm sort of have to be courteous enough to be in their home and stay there, and then potentially go back the following year or whenever it may be. So yeah, keeping that relationship's a good idea.
You'd be in a good position to discuss inter-family differences in beliefs. Take a belief and understand why even within a family. That's what I would do.
Oh, interesting. Or like figure out what the family disagrees with, if there's some contention, and maybe you can actually like teach them the skills to do SE with each other, or give them them those tools where they're.
Why is it you want to divorce one another?
Yes.
Charging $400 a night. Yeah.
I think a point of entry for a much longer extended conversation would be how do you assess or consider what is a reliable news source? How do you know?
It would be interesting. Also, the SE survey comes to mind. It might be interesting to do the SE survey with the family every year. Hey, every January you do the survey with them, and then maybe you do sort of I know Nathan's been doing that with people. running them through the survey.
Don't forget, there's an online version, and so you can have many people fill it out all at once.
Yes, that's true.
And so you can
Yeah.
visually see where on the spectrum people are different about fundamental epistemologies. And then from there, you can facilitate. You say, is there a question that you could ask so-and-so about why they answered this way? Another great, like my first question usually for almost any statement, no matter what the statement is on the survey, is what do you think this statement means? And so there are 24 different statements. Each one has a different kind of like subject matter it's focusing on, and they're all super important, crucial topics that pertain to just about any kind of SE talk.
And
Yeah,
you don't
it's a
have to
great
even bring up
survey.
a claim. You don't have to talk about a specific claim. You're talking meta about how they reason about things.
Yes.
Yeah, that could be cool. And I would do the survey with both families. I you know, to your question, I wouldn't ask different questions because you know one's more conservative and the other one's more liberal. I'd ask the same questions. I'd run them through the same survey. And then maybe you could even bring them all. I don't know if this is feasible, but it would be kind of fun to maybe do the survey with both families if you ever got a chance. But that might be pushing your luck a little bit. Like, just run the family through the survey. It'd be eye-opening. I bet the family would be shocked at how other people in their families are seeing things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
quite
It was
possibly.
eye-opening to me. I was just shocked about just how many people conceptualize what true means. And that's like you have to do that part. I mean, I know with Mark's videos, almost every single time he does an interview, it's how confident are you that this belief is true? And then how important is it for you to believe in things that are true? And that question opens up a whole can of worms on what do you mean by true, that sort of thing. And it's really important that you nail that down because that's like the focal point at which we can doubt ourselves.
You may not. You may never be able to move from that aspect of the conversation, which is interesting.
Yeah. And you might be stuck on that for a while. This is why I love the survey because it's just all about that sort of meta reasoning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going meta
Great,
is
Dave.
one of the obvious ways to go when you hit an impasse, when you're stuck, when you don't know what to ask next. Go meta.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
Interesting. I'm
Good.
just looking at the SE survey. I'm listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing that.
Was there anyone else that wanted to come on, Reed? Or should we probably be wrapping it up? We've been going for about an hour, I think, here.
Yeah, that's all. Yep. Well, thanks, David.
All right, David. Thank you for coming on. And
Sure thing. Lovely
anything
to meet
else
some of you.
lovely
Yeah.
to meet you too. And thanks for the free book. I remember we're grateful that you
Oh,
sent it
yeah.
to me. I ended up
Oh,
forwarding it
of
on to
course.
somebody who was in prison who was looking
Yeah.
for advice on how to talk to his fellow inmates. And he's like, there's just so much magical thinking here, and there's the platitudes, and I'm losing my mind here. You know, how can I talk to these people? And so
Yeah.
I sent your book. It got sent back because there's a finite number of things that like pages or something. So I ended up ripping your book into like 4 sections and like
Oh.
sending like
Sweet. Okay.
20 pages, 20 pages, 20 pages, 20 pages, something like that. And it finally got
This
to
guy's been slowly making a noose over 7 months. And you probably should have just condemned him, like with my book as well. And now I'm
Ah.
this is. I really appreciate that because that's an amazing story. I would have never have even thought that it would have like, gone that far. It was just something essentially that was out there to clarify my own thoughts. So yeah, that's really cool.
What's the title of your book, just in case anyone's listening, wondering what that is?
Fantastic fallacies. There are 2. The second went into the atheist split side of things and is maybe a bit more. Thank you. I wasn't specifically trying to advertise, but that's really kind. Yeah, and hope it helps. I mean, the reviews are definitely how it sort of keeps momentum. But yeah, if people want to try and figure out logical fallacies for beginners. It really at least tries to break it down. I'm very proud of the audiobook, which I did myself, which is something people admire apparently. So yeah, I recommend it at least.
Having
Oh,
a
that
good
should help
handle on logical fallacies can help you do better SE, because it can help you conceptualize what's happening, what the person is talking about, and what they're relying on.
Well, it's funny because we're outlining modules 7, 8, 9, 10 at the moment, which is phase 2 of the course. And there's a place for logical fallacies somewhere in there. We're trying to find the best place to put it. It's either in the reason section or the epistemology module. But there will be a place for that for sure. It's important to know what those are
Nice.
if you want to do SE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
All right,
if
David,
there's anything I can do to help, I'm sure you're more than capable. But yeah, I'll just get in
Okay.
touch.
Oh,
Be on the
okay.
lookout for testings of the module, which we should be testing it in the learning management system we have now. So it'll be good.
Mm.
David, you shouldn't make an offer like that lightly.
Yeah, careful.
Yes.
We'll rope you in.
Yep.
Give an inch, take a mile, all that. I know. Yeah. I've had my dealings with Anthony and Reed. No, they're lovely. Yeah. All good.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thank you. Lovely to
Yeah.
meet you. And take care.
Cheers.
Later.
All right.
A quick teaser of the special tip sheet that you can get if you complete the module quiz, right?
That's right. If you go through all the lessons in module 2 and you mark them complete, there's a little checkbox at the top of every page that you have to tag to show that you've completed it. A knowledge check will become available to you. And then regardless of how you perform, as long as you complete the knowledge check, whether you pass or fail, I think, is that right, Robert? We kick off the 1-page tip sheet. So you'll still get the tip sheet, whether you pass or fail. And then that's a really great resource for gaining confidence on how to do SE. And we have one of those for every module. And there's 6 of them at the moment.
Yes. And a shout out to Bjorn, our graphic designer, who really made those tip sheets really look wonderful. They're useful for people to have in your back pocket when you're out there doing SE. You can refer to them.
And a shout out to Robert, who, as I understand it, distilled the main concepts from those different modules and built out the draft of the tip sheet that was handed over to the graphic designer.
Yeah,
So-
it's supposed to be just the highlights, just a thing.
Yeah, but just to recognize the work that you put into it too. All right, great. Anything else about why we should do SE? Yeah, do you want to say something?
I just wanted to respond to this one comment here. It says, Nathan, how do you overcome my truth versus objective truth? And to that, I say, watch almost any video on my channel. And almost all of them have that somewhere in them. Most of them do. Probably like just start with the main one on my channel. It's like the splash page video, but then also I have tutorial videos on how to use the SE survey, which don't have a lot of views on them, probably because they're slow and methodical and very like, I don't know, something about it. But there's some of my better videos, so check those ones out as well.
And I think we did a review video of one of your conversations with somebody where you were talking about truth. And it was a very relativistic thinker at one of those fairs that you went to.
Yep.
So that could be a good resource too. I don't know if you have the ability to drop in the link to that video on the spot, but
oh yeah, probably.
That's a really good video because you not only see the discussion, but then you see experienced SE practitioners talk about that problem specifically and how to overcome it.
Cool.
Great. Okay. Well,
All right.
yeah. We'll wrap it up. Thanks for joining us for this second review show of the modules, and we have 4 more to go. So the next one that we'll be doing is on considering ethics, the ethical considerations that you should probably have in mind before you have your SE talks.
Yep. And if you missed the last week's one on module 1, feel free to continue and go back and find that video and continue listening to our reviews. Yep.
Yeah, and we are releasing these as podcast episodes as well. So if you're more of an audio person, you want to just listen to these things, do a search on your favorite your favorite podcast platform for Street Epistemology, and you should be able to listen to these as well.
All right. I'll hit the promo button. We'll watch promo and see you guys later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.